Have you ever found yourself yearning to be someone who is unshakable? Someone who doesn't falter, no matter the criticism, no matter the rejection, no matter the loss or the betrayal. Maybe you've secretly wished that you could walk through life untouched, as if no words, no actions, no disappointments could ever reach you. Have you dreamed of the day when you would no longer feel the silent pain, the kind that gnaws at you from the inside, eating away at you even though you manage to pretend you're fine on the outside? That sense of anguish, always lingering just below the surface, making every day feel like a battle. Perhaps you're exhausted from trying to please everyone, from maintaining an image of strength, of being the one who always has it together, when in truth, what you crave is simply rest. A moment, just a single moment, free from the weight of expectations, free from the pressure to be invincible, to be untouchable. But let me share something with you, a truth that no one may have dared to speak to you before. Something that, when fully understood, could change everything for you. As long as you keep running from your pain, it will continue to control you. As long as you attempt to numb yourself, to protect your heart, to avoid facing the very emotions that make you human, you will remain a prisoner to everything that happens around you. You will remain captive to the words that wound you, the actions that disappoint you, the silences that cut deeper than any spoken insult. These things will hold power over you, not because they are inherently powerful, but because you have been running from the pain they provoke, giving them the ability to haunt you. But here's the thing, this isn't weakness. It's not a sign that you're fragile or broken. It is simply the reality that most people live with. The difference between those who seem unshaken and those who feel every blow is that some people have simply learned to disguise their wounds more effectively than others. They wear their masks better. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, once said, "We are not what happens to us. We are what we choose to become." And therein lies the key to your liberation. True transformation doesn't come from hiding from the world or building higher walls to keep it at bay. It's not about becoming cold and indifferent, shutting off your heart to avoid future hurts. True strength is about integration. It's about bringing into the light everything you have been hiding in the shadows of your own psyche. True power comes not from the absence of pain, but from the full awareness of who you are, even when you are bleeding, even when you are falling apart. Strength doesn't lie in pretending to be fine. It lies in knowing your truth, in accepting that pain is a part of life, but it doesn't have to define you. It lies in the courage to stand tall, even in your vulnerability, because you know yourself deeply and you have the strength to heal. If you've made it this far, this video wasn't just an accident. It's here because something inside you has been quietly seeking the answers to the questions you haven't fully articulated yet. It's for the person who's tired of being hurt by everything and everyone. It's for you, the one who feels like you're always emotionally off balance, as if other people have some kind of power over you that you can't quite understand. You might feel like you're forever stuck in a cycle of pain, constantly being thrown around by the actions and words of others. But I want to show you that it doesn't have to be this way. Your world can change. But in order for that to happen, you will need to face some difficult truths. There may be parts of this that will sting, and yes, it might hurt. But trust me when I tell you that the moment you confront these truths, you'll feel a freedom you've never experienced before. It's only through this painful reckoning that real transformation begins. Here's where it gets real. You believe that what hurts you is out there in the actions of others, in the cruel words that people say, in the betrayals you never saw coming, in the abandonment that left you feeling invisible and alone. But here's the uncomfortable truth you've been avoiding. None of these things have any true power to hurt you unless there is already a wound inside you. What really hurts you isn't what others do to you, it's what those actions, words, and events activate within you. It's the story you've been telling yourself about them. It's the old trauma, the unresolved pain, the wounds you've carried for years without ever fully addressing them. The emptiness you try to cover up with pride, with strength, with an armor of "I'm fine" even when you're falling apart inside. What you're truly running from is not the people who hurt you, but the parts of you that you've neglected. Jung pointed out that the pain we feel in the face of external challenges is simply a reflection of what remains unhealed inside us. That's why some people can go through devastating experiences and still hold onto their clarity and inner peace, while others collapse under the weight of a single critical remark. It's not about what happens to us, it's about how it hits us, and more importantly, where it hits us within ourselves. This leads to a truth that many find difficult to accept. You continue to suffer because, on some level, you still believe you can control how the world should treat you. You are still trying to be good enough, strong enough, smart enough, loving enough, as if being all of these things guarantees that others will never hurt you. But the reality is that control is an illusion. As long as you cling to it, you will be trapped in a constant cycle of tension, stress, and anxiety. You will keep trying to predict the unpredictable, trying to prevent the inevitable, trying to avoid the very thing that life often throws at us all: pain. If you truly want to stop suffering, it won't come from trying to control everything. It won't come from avoiding what you fear most. The way out is to stop protecting yourself from suffering. What you need now is not more control over the external world, but more awareness of your inner world. As long as you believe that the actions of others need to change in order for you to be okay, you will remain enslaved to those actions. Your true freedom begins the moment you realize that everything that comes from outside can only hurt you if it finds an echo inside of you. This is where the real battle lies: the unconscious. It's what you don't see, what you don't understand, and what you haven't yet mastered. And it's exactly this part of you that has been running the show all along, often without you even realizing it. What you have not yet integrated into your conscious awareness has been controlling your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions, and your life. You have been a slave to the unseen forces within you. But this is where change begins. And we're going to dive deeper into this next. We're going to explore what lies beneath the surface of your pain, and it's from this deeper understanding that true transformation can take place. Most people go through life believing they are in control the moment they wake up. They think they're steering the wheel, making their own choices, shaping their own future. But in reality, they're not. Not as long as they remain on autopilot, reacting without understanding, feeling emotions that seem to appear out of nowhere, making decisions they can't explain and later regret. They wonder why their life feels like a loop of patterns they can't escape. Carl Jung gave a name to this invisible force, saying, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And that is precisely what's happening to many people right now. The pain that surfaces unexpectedly, the anger that erupts seemingly without cause, the deep sadness that blankets them on an ordinary day, these aren't coincidences. They are not signs of weakness or instability. They are signals, messages from deep within. These messages come from places that have been long forgotten, ignored, or buried. Jung called this realm the unconscious, but it is not just a vague cloud of random thoughts. It is a powerful force, an entire internal system of unresolved trauma, repressed desires, old fears, and painful memories. These hidden forces do not simply disappear over time. Instead, they remain active, shaping every emotional reaction, every self-doubt, every destructive pattern. People often wonder why a simple comment can shatter them while others brush it off with ease. It's because that comment touches something raw inside, something still alive, still sensitive. And if it's alive, it means it was never dealt with, only suppressed. These unresolved wounds have merely been swept under the rug of the mind. But the person keeps stumbling over them again and again. Jung once said, "We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses." Yet so many continue to judge themselves for how they feel, repress what hurts, silence their true thoughts, as if pushing these things away will make them disappear. But the unconscious does not fade just because it's ignored. It adapts. It finds new and more dangerous ways to be heard. Through repeated toxic relationships, through self-sabotaging behaviors that ruin good things, through anxiety that appears when everything seems fine. These aren't accidents. This is not bad luck. It's the unconscious screaming for attention, demanding to be acknowledged. But instead of listening, most people numb themselves, distract themselves, or simply pretend everything is okay. If someone wants to stop being hurt, they have to stop running from what lives inside them. Because as long as the unconscious remains a mystery, they are at its mercy. They become puppets, pulled by strings they cannot see. And the cruel irony is this: the more one tries to protect themselves from external pain by closing off, by being indifferent, by building walls, the more vulnerable they become to the pain inside. But there is another way, and it begins not with resistance, but with surrender. Not with defense, but with deep understanding. Becoming emotionally untouchable isn't about pretending to be strong. It's about knowing oneself so completely that nothing from the outside can shake what has already been embraced within. People often believe the only way to survive is to shut down emotionally. They build walls around their hearts. They wear masks to hide their vulnerability. They repeat phrases like, "I don't care anymore," or "nothing gets to me," in the hope that if they say it enough, it might become true. But inside, they are still bleeding, still corroding. Because the real problem was never that they felt too much, it's that they never understood what they were feeling or why. And that confusion is the clearest sign of an unknown self. Jung once said, "Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when touching a human soul, be just another human soul." That soul, the real one behind the tough exterior, is still there, aching to be seen and heard. True emotional strength isn't cold. It isn't detached. It doesn't avoid pain or pretend that nothing matters. It isn't about avoiding conflict or numbing feelings. It's about integration. It's about standing face to face with your shadows, your flaws, your insecurities, and choosing to bring them into the light. You don't become untouchable by hardening yourself against the world. You become untouchable when nothing inside you is left unacknowledged. When there's no longer a war within, no outside force can win. The things that once triggered you begin to lose their power because you've already faced them. You've stopped reacting and started observing. You've stopped escaping and started choosing. That is real freedom. Jung called this journey individuation. It is the process of becoming who you really are, not what the world told you to be, not the identity you crafted to be accepted, but who you are at your core. It is not a path to perfection, Jung insisted, but a path to wholeness. You don't need to become a better person. You need to become a complete one. And that requires something far more difficult than achievement: acceptance. Radical, compassionate, fearless acceptance. Here lies the secret that no one teaches. The more you run from pain, the faster it hunts you down. The more you try to be unaffected, the more fragile you become. But when you stop and face your own suffering, when you accept yourself fully, both the beautiful and the broken, the noble and the shameful, then nothing outside of you has the power to destroy you. That kind of strength can't be faked. It can't be borrowed. It has to be built from the inside out. Yet this path isn't easy. It takes courage. The courage to look within, to drop the masks, to truly feel. Because it is within pain, not in comfort, not in numbness, that transformation begins. And that is what we will explore in the next part. How suffering, far from being the enemy, can become the doorway to your deepest strength. This time, we'll walk into it without fear. Pain is a master of disguise. It rarely shows up clearly, never knocking politely at the door of your awareness. Instead, it morphs, shape-shifts into emotions and impulses that are easier to dismiss. Anxiety, irritability, apathy, boredom, even self-sabotage. You find yourself snapping at someone you love, numbing out with distractions, chasing meaningless comforts, or spiraling into habits you don't understand. And yet, beneath it all, there's a quiet truth. Ignored pain does not vanish. It burrows. It digs deep tunnels into your psyche, settling into the unseen architecture of your being, until, without warning, something inside you collapses. Not because you're weak, but because that pain has been patiently waiting to be acknowledged. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychoanalyst, saw suffering not as a failure, not as a flaw to be eliminated, but as a sacred signal. He believed pain was the soul's messenger, the language of the unconscious, the cry of the self in its entirety, begging to be seen, heard, and understood. Jung once said that depression is like a woman dressed in black. When she arrives at your door, you should not chase her away. Instead, you should invite her in, offer her a seat, pour her a cup of coffee, and listen to what she has to say. But most of us don't listen. We do the opposite. We silence ourselves. We distract ourselves. We keep busy. We numb the ache with noise and routine. We tell ourselves it's nothing, that we should be grateful, that we're overreacting. All the while, the very thing we need most, to sit with our pain, to understand its message, we avoid like fire. But what is that pain really trying to show you? The truth is, suffering becomes unbearable only when we resist it. You are at war within yourself. One part of you wants to grow, evolve, shed old skins, and move toward truth. Another part clings to what is familiar, what feels safe, what you've always known, even if it hurts you. This inner tug-of-war is the source of your torment. Something inside you is crying out for transformation, but your ego, accustomed to control and predictability, tries to suppress that call. And it is in this very friction between who you are and who you are meant to become that pain is born. Because change hurts. Growth hurts. Letting go of outdated beliefs, severing toxic ties, allowing parts of your identity to die. All of this is a form of mourning. It is a sacred process of death and rebirth, one that shakes the foundation of who you thought you were. But paradoxically, it is precisely within this collapse, this crumbling of all certainty, that something truly new can emerge. When you are stripped bare, when your defenses shatter and the masks fall away, you meet yourself the first time, not the version of you created to survive, to perform, to be liked or admired, but the real you, the one underneath the layers of social conditioning, unhealed wounds, and inherited expectations. And in that moment of radical vulnerability, suffering becomes sacred, because it has brought you to your knees before the only thing that can ever truly set you free, yourself. Jung understood this intimately. He did not see suffering as a flaw in the system. He saw it as part of the process. Pain, he said, is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of the journey, what he called individuation. But this journey is not for the faint of heart. Most people turn back before they've even begun. They retreat. They distract themselves. They climb back to the surface where it's comfortable and familiar. But not you. If you've made it this far, it means something in you is ready to cross that dark valley, ready to descend into the depths. Because only in the depths does true freedom begin. The path of individuation is brutal and lonely. It makes no promises of comfort. It does not offer guarantees. It does not protect your ego, it dismantles it. Jung described individuation as the process of becoming who you truly are. But to do that, you must first unlearn who you thought you were. And that, perhaps more than anything else, hurts. Because you begin to realize that much of your identity was an illusion. You are not your achievements. You are not your pain. You are not the image you've crafted to earn love, validation, or respect. All of that was armor. A mask, a survival strategy. But surviving is not the same as living. And individuation is life's call beyond survival. It is the moment the unconscious begins to rise, bringing with it everything you've repressed, every fear, shadow, and lie you've told yourself. To walk this path, you must dissolve the persona, what Jung called the mask of collective convenience. You must peel away the skin you've worn to belong. Only then will you see what lies beneath. It is in this stripping away, this internal fire, that you begin to become untouchable. Not because you're immune to pain, but because you've walked through it. You've faced your shame, your neediness, your rage, and instead of running, you've said, I see you, and you no longer control me. That clarity, that willingness to face your own darkness, gives you a strength no external validation could ever offer. You no longer need to be loved by everyone. You no longer need to prove your worth or win every battle. You've stopped performing. You've stopped reacting. You've become whole. True emotional armor is not a wall, it is a core, a rooted presence, an inner integration. And when that inner wholeness is achieved, you may still feel pain, but it does not break you. You may be hurt, but you do not lose yourself. You've stopped living on the surface. You've begun to dwell in the depths. And yet, this depth carries a price, loneliness, not because you are alone, but because few have the courage to walk this path with you. Most remain trapped in roles, in masks, in fear. And as you awaken, as you free yourself, you inevitably create distance. But that distance is not pride, it is maturity. You are no longer hiding in the places you once called home. This brings us to the final truth of this journey. Consciousness is your true shield. It is not strength that protects you, it is clarity. Because when you are aware, truly aware, nothing has power over you. Nothing. Not the opinions of others. Not the wounds of your past. Not even your own fear. And this awareness does not come in a single blinding flash. It comes in quiet, courageous choices, every day. Choosing to look within even when it hurts. Choosing to take responsibility for everything you feel without blaming the world, your past, or anyone else. Jung said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." For years, you've resisted. The fear of not being enough, the ache of being unseen, the pain of rejection. You fought it, buried it, armored yourself in perfection and strength. But where has that brought you? It brought you here, tired, exhausted from fighting yourself. And now you understand real emotional immunity is not about becoming hard, but about becoming clear. It is not about building higher walls, but about deepening your roots. When you understand your wounds, your patterns, your triggers, other people's actions lose their power to define you. You still feel, but you no longer drown. You still suffer, but you are no longer lost. That changes everything. The world may still throw its waves at you, but if you've learned to dive deep enough, you know where the calm is, where the truth is, where the power is. Down below, beneath the surface. So here you are, and here we are together at this threshold. If something within you has stirred, if a light has flickered in the darkness of your being, then speak it. Write it. Claim it. Say, "I choose awareness." Let this be a movement, a rising of those who no longer want to survive by pretending, but live by being real. And don't stop here. This journey continues. The next step matters. Real transformation only begins when you keep walking even after the first awakening. You've crossed the threshold. Now keep going.